a new cellmate.
Did they let you?
I was with a previous cellmate that did me, but I reported it.
What would he touch you? What the hell, Daniel?
Well, it was a lot more than just that.
Here we go, folks. Little Sippy versus Clark, the battle of the century. I've been wanting to make this video for a while, but this past week, the stuff that's been coming out between these two is crazy. They're just going ban for ban when it comes to Daniel Larson content and trying to get the most that they can out of each and every call. It's no question that Little Sippy has been cranking out Daniel Larson calls ever since he got that guy's contact, but Clark has been kind of scarce with his calls recently, especially ever since that last big call where he decided to tell Daniel that everything was a lie. I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be like their last official call or whatever, but once he seen Little Sippy start going ham, he knew that he had to join in too, and now we're getting multiple calls coming out from Clark that are pretty wild. It seems like Clark's able to get a lot more out of Daniel because obviously Daniel has known Clark for a lot longer, so he's just a lot more trusting to him. I mean, Clark is the one that kind of helped orchestrate the whole fake Tina, fake Grace thing, so it only makes sense that Daniel has a lot of trust in the guy. So basically in this video, I wanted to break down both of their most recent calls and compare the two. See which is better, see which has more content, and basically just have a laugh with y'all as we talk about all the crazy shit that Daniel Larson tells these two trolls. We've already seen a lot of Little Sippy content, and this Clark content is just too good not to start off with. So I wanted to start off with the two newest Clark calls. One of these calls comes from Clark's own account, so it's pretty crazy. He has this new account called Clarky Warky, where he's posting all his Daniel Larson calls, very similar to what Little Sippy's doing. This first call we're going to be looking at is from about 5 days ago, and it's really hard to explain what's going on in the call. It's the basic Daniel Larson shit where he's ranting about Bob, Tina, but it's also a little bit of the court sprinkled in. So he's talking about like his potential release. He goes off about a lot of stuff, and he seems to talk a lot more than he does in his Little Sippy videos. Seems like Clark is able to keep homie on like track. You know what I mean? He's able to keep him where he's talking about a lot of information, whereas Little Sippy can kind of have him start going off the rails, which could potentially be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on if his content is good, and most of the time it isn't. So you end up just watching him like try to mediocrely troll Daniel, as Daniel doesn't even really take the bait. It's like, how hard is it to troll this guy? And Little Sippy can't even do it.
Because you said that Grace blocked you, right?
Yeah, as of right now, but I'm still trying
How long ago did she block you?
I mean, I don't know if I'm blocked more than that. I'm just not getting any answers. It's been maybe like 2 weeks, probably. Since Bob hasn't been answering. It's been around the same time.
No, around the same time.
Yeah.
And are you still leaking the phone calls, or did that stop?
No,
I know that the leaking of the phone calls was a big problem.
I have not, but I did see the call that Nicholas put out the other day, because you keep calling me I like he's Clark, a.k.a. Griffin, or Griffin, a.k.a. Clark.
Yeah, but your name is Griffin, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
It's because when looking at it from a legal perspective, right, they need to know, so they don't call me crazy.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, I agree.
I feel like I'm feeling like this is a rare situation. The reason why I made the threat, I feel like Bob was on purpose in conversation with the Vanderwalls. I believe he's lied to me. I believe he's in contact at this point, all along, right? And he lied to me saying he wasn't. And I believe that he pretty much chose, as well as the Vanderwalls, to keep me homeless until I said something, which was the threat, right? And so I would get arrested by the feds. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I don't get why he would do that.
So the courts could get me housing.
Oh,
Because the Vanderwalls do not have charges against me for the threats I made, and we already know Tina promised me that she would help.
That is true. And McDougall promised, I guess, you things.
And McDougall McDougall promised, but he was trying to falsely incriminate me. He was calling me and all this crazy stuff without even the proof. And I don't know if there is a conversation, I guess, in my legal discovery where I did say that I was to somebody claiming to be Tina, but I don't think it was really Tina. And at that point of this day, I didn't eat in like a week.
Yeah, no.
So I like literally was not even thinking straight. I just read the message and I just responded it like immediately. I was in the car with Bob that day.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, they can't really get you for that.
Right, and they can't.
You know, it's these calls that really show how delusional Daniel is. Not only because of the shit that he's talking about, but also because of who he's saying this shit to. He's saying all this to Clark. All this to the guy that, like, I think less than 3 months ago told Daniel that everything was a lie, right? He told Daniel that everything was a facade. It was all made up. Tina and Grace, the people that he was talking to at least, aren't real, right? Those Tina and Grace, the fake Tina, the fake Grace, however Daniel likes to say it, right? Those individuals were all made up. They were made up to troll Daniel. And homie doesn't understand that still. To this day, to both little Sippy and to Clark, he brags about, his relationship with Grace Vanderwall. He talks about how they're in the case and how they're going to come up and, like, I guess, start talking to the judge, and they're going to save Daniel and tell the judge how everything was planned and how, they were trying to help Daniel out and it's all a big misunderstanding. He still thinks that to this day. It's insane. But to sit here and to say this shit to Clark, the very guy who told you it was all fake, that's like a whole nother level of delusion right there, y'all. It's crazy. It makes for this insane dynamic where you have like Clark, who just not too long ago said everything was fake and that was his last call. He was done. Who's sitting there trolling Daniel once again. And then you have Daniel, who's willing to take it, even though he was told plainly that everything was a whole troll, right? He was told plainly in simple words, and he still doesn't believe it. And that line at the end really takes you back to like some old school Daniel Larson type shit. Like, back in the day when homie would just rant on his community posts, get on random calls, tell people shit that he shouldn't be saying, right? Basically spill his whole life story to everybody and admit everything. Because he sits there and says, they're calling me a PDF file. McDougall claims that I'm a PDF file, even though he has no evidence. And then in the same breath, homie sits there and says, except for the fact that I literally said I was a PDF file to Tina one time. And it's like, dude, how are you going to sit there and say this guy has no evidence against you, while a second later saying he has clear evidence against you, saying it through text that you were a PDF file, or that you are a PDF file, excuse me. I mean, come on, you're going to sit there and think that the judge is going to believe you when you tell them that you were tired? If this case ever does go to trial and they look at that as evidence and you sit there and tell the judge that you were just tired, they're going to look at you like you're insane, bro. Like, I mean, obviously you are insane, so they'll probably be looking at you like you're insane anyway. But their eyes will probably, pop out of their head on some Looney Tunes type shit. Because it's like, what exactly are you trying to say? You're sitting here and saying that you were too tired to know what you were saying. That you were just too sleepy, so you admitted to being a PDF file. You think that just happens? You think somebody's just going to resonate with that? I mean, this is what I'm talking about when I say Clark gets the good evidence when it comes to Daniel. Now, I don't like the guy, but he can get Daniel to say a lot of shit, whereas when Daniel gets on call with Little Sippy, it's almost like he's just chopping it up with the homie. But like, when Daniel Larson gets on call with Clark, it gets to like the serious shit, right? He starts breaking down everything, because Clark is really like the pinnacle of all that shit, you know what I mean? He's like the beacon when it comes to Tina and Grace. So when Daniel needs information on Tina and Grace, he needs to talk to them, he wants to rant about them, he's gonna come to Clark for it, And that's the same with his case. Like, he talks to Little Sippy like about the technicalities of his case, because he knows the shit that Little Sippy's been through. But when it comes to the deep, the dark, the dirty details, he's going to sit there and tell Clark everything. And that's what we continue to see in this call.
Told me that the relationship was confirmed and all this stuff when I was talking with her. And she told me, well, Lisa told me that she cheated behind my back. You see what I mean? So there's like all this stuff to where Tina is, I think, even overwhelmed at Grace. I can't confirm if anything Grace said to me is even true. All I know is that Tina was like, oh, that's clearly not okay. You see what I mean? And you probably remember those conversations.
Oh, I do.
So I don't know exactly what's going on there. And then also, I guess one of the other inmates in the jail did steal one of my papers on my legal discovery, which had Grace's address. So she needs to be careful because other people are going to try to send her letters impersonating me.
Jeez, okay, that could be something bad.
She might be accidentally sending letters or something, I don't know, to the wrong person. I don't even know. But I did try to send her like 4 letters, including Tina and Dave, way back in like July and August.
Okay, that could be hopefully that she's safe though. Do you know what inmate it was, or was it just a random person?
Yeah, I don't know exactly who it was. I'm getting multiple
Yeah.
email about it. And then also, besides that, I mean, I'm just waiting. I'm kind of pissed off at the court lawyer for deeming me incompetent. They were manipulating me as well, saying one thing, and then it's like, well, in my mind, I was like, you can't really do that. And then they're like, well, anything else, because we can't talk about this anymore. And they shut me down.
Yeah, that can be frustrating.
Well, that's illegal.
True.
From their point of view. So, I mean, even though they're doing it, I can still sue.
So, as we've already established, Daniel loves to talk about Grace and Tina, and he does it way too much. I mean, in this call, I had to cut out so much in between that was just random bits of him bantering about Tina and Grace, shit that didn't even matter, right? But if you read in between the lines, there's some pretty good stories in there. Like, for example, Daniel talking about how an inmate stole one of his letters and is now going to start, like, sending Grace stuff and, like, impersonating him or whatever. It doesn't make any sense why an inmate would want to impersonate Daniel, especially to this fake Grace Vanderwall, you know, this person that's just pretending to be Grace Vanderwall. There's no reason why an inmate would realistically want to do that, because it's not going to hurt Daniel in any way. It's just going to make him look like the same way that he already looks like, an idiot. You know, I'm sure he doesn't come across that smart when he writes in his letters, so an inmate, you know, making him sound goofy and writing some weird shit is probably just going to sound the same as Daniel writing whatever he would have wrote normally. This is something that Daniel Larson has discussed before with little Sippy, the whole concept of people stealing his letters and writing people pretending to be him. I really don't get it. Some people in my comments seem to believe that people would go the lengths to troll Daniel like that, and I guess it's true. The inmates might mess with Daniel, and you'll see in the coming up clips that they definitely have messed with Daniel, actually, in fact. But, you know, that's coming up later. We'll get to that in a bit. But either way, it's like, I just don't see somebody being as meticulous as to, you know, take Daniel's letters, you know, take all his addresses and start writing the people that he's writing just to mess with him. It doesn't make any sense. That's sort of like the same shit Daniel would think somebody would be doing on like his community tab, or like, you know, just impersonating him on TikTok or whatever. He would just start kind of getting paranoid and saying that these people are writing stuff pretending to be him, right? I feel like that's just sort of Daniel's paranoia coming through. But hey, maybe I'm just talking out of my ass. We also see Daniel once again talking about suing these people. It doesn't make any sense. What are you going to sue them for? You're suing them because they said you're incompetent? That's literally the only thing that's saving you at this point. The fact that you're sitting in jail and you're incompetent and they haven't moved you to another facility is the only reason that you might get out soon. I mean, that's it. If you guys look at the court documents, they're saying that the judge might dismiss this case if Daniel isn't moved, by December 31st, which is going to be coming up by the end of this month. So let's hope they make a decision so this dude can continue to be in jail and hopefully get sentenced, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. But basically, Daniel's competency plea is the only thing that's keeping him from potentially being in jail any longer. And it seems like he's having a bad time in jail. So you would think he would want to continue with that competency plea, but for some reason he's mad because they said he was incompetent, and he says that they're like, you know, pushing him around or some shit like that, or like they're confusing him and they're like making it so that the trial is all mucked up. I don't know really what he's trying to say, but it sounds like he's trying to say that he's basically just confused because he doesn't know what's going on. And that probably goes into play with him not being competent. He doesn't understand what's going on because he's not fully there, and he's still living in complete delusion. But enough about that. The main point I'm trying to get at is Daniel Larson is having a bad time in jail. And that's evident from the coming up clip where homie talks about how he was essayed by one of his cellmates. He basically had this previous cellmate that apparently held him down and did some crazy shit to him. I mean, Clark asked him to clarify. He's like, well, did he touch you? And homie says he did a lot more than that. This clip has some crazy juxtaposition because you see Daniel telling this like really concerning story that's probably hard for him to tell. I mean, it would be hard for anybody who got essayed to tell their story, but he's telling it to Clark, somebody who's just not really taking it in like somebody should, right? He's basically just going like, whoa, Daniel, you got diddled? What happened? Tell us all about it, you know, in like normal Clark fashion. He's getting all hype about it. It's really weird. So it's just this insane contrast, and it's really hard to tell if Daniel's telling the truth here. I mean, it's sort of like the boy who cried wolf. When he says something, it's really hard to take him serious, right? So take what he's about to say with a grain of salt, but either way, if like this was the case and homie did get diddled, he probably shouldn't be talking to Clark about it because, I mean, you probably already know how he's going to react, Daniel. He already told you that he used you as a troll. So he's probably going to continue to do that and then upload this video. He did upload this video, and now everyone's laughing at you because you're a kid diddler and you went to jail and then got diddled yourself. So everybody's just laughing at you. It's basically like payback.
Is turning into definitely me being taken advantage of, and I'm not going to let that slide. Got a new cellmate.
Did they let
I
you
was
like,
with a previous cellmate that did me,
What?
but I reported it.
what would he touch you? What the hell, Daniel?
Well, it was a lot more than just that, but he held me down and wouldn't let me move or whatever and tried to do some stuff, but I reported it, and well, another thing is the jail, whatever, report people, they dropped that case and said it never happened. They didn't have proof, so that pisses me off too.
Yeah, that's wrong. Did they
But
let
they
you?
did move me out of that cell, and that guy actually got out of jail. He left to the halfway house.
Weird.
So that's not good either.
No,
if
that guy.
he goes to the same halfway house I was supposed to go to, then that's a safety concern.
Now, obviously, this caused quite the uproar on both Twitter and Reddit as people started posting this clip around and, you know, more people started discussing it. But if you really like listen to it, I don't know if Daniel's telling the truth. He says that this case has already been reviewed and it was dismissed. I feel like if this case was real, it probably would have went through. And considering that they said that there was zero evidence, it's likely that Daniel made this all up inside his head. But this does make sense though. I mean, we all know the stereotype when it comes to prisons. People love to say that, you know, when you drop the soap, bad things happen. The statistics just say that this is the case a pretty good amount of the time. Now, while it might not be the case all the time, it's definitely a higher number than if you just took a general population of people, right? A lot of like bad things go down when it comes to, you know, inmate on inmate violence. Let's just put it that way. In any context, inmate on inmate violence can be very high just because you have two people in this enclosed space alone not being watched for these prolonged periods of time. Either way, people are having a field day with this clip because, like I said previously, it's basically payback. Daniel has talked about diddling kids. You know, that's the whole thing with Daniel. Daniel is a PDF file. Daniel Larson, the TikTok PDF file. You know what I mean? Like, that was his whole thing before he went to jail. And now it's being brought over to his case, and you're seeing him talk about it in detail. It's becoming this whole ordeal. Then you have him get essayed, and it's just all combines, right? And it becomes this amalgamation of content where you have a little bit of context coming from Clark and a little bit of context coming from little Sippy, and you put it all together and it tells this wild story. Speaking of little Sippy, let's move on to his video. Now, it is like 15 minutes, so I'm going to do my best to try to cut it up into 2 clips, make it not too long, you know, get out all the fluff. But that's what I mean when I say Clark has all the solid information, like it's straight to the point, right? You see Clark's video, it's about 9 minutes, it's pretty condensed. And then you see little Sippy's videos, and they're like 15 minutes sometimes, right? It's just a bunch of rambling. And the ones that are short aren't really that good, right? They just don't have that much substance anyway. They're short for a reason. But when Clark and Larson leak upload a clip and it's short, it usually matters. You know, it's like something meaningful. Either way, they're all stupid for calling Daniel, but I feel like the one that makes the best content is Clark. But anyway, let's see this video so we can check out what Daniel Larson has to say to little Sippy.
This call will be recorded and subject to monitoring at any time. To accept this call, press 5. You may begin speaking now.
Hello? Hello?
Hey, just to let you know, this may be the last time I can call.
Why is that?
Yesterday I got called out by the SIS, which is like the head investigators and I guess the head team of the jail.
Yeah.
Who deals with investigations. You probably know what SIS is because you've been to prison before. I got called out by them. They said they contacted Grace on my behalf when I told them not to, but that's beside the point. They went ahead and did that behind my back, and Grace is threatening a restraining order now.
The real Grace is threatening a restraining order? Why is that?
That's my understanding. I don't know. Just because the COs are calling. I don't know any other information other than that. I'm just going off of what SIS has told me. And then they've also told me to stop contact with everyone, or they will be shutting off the phone. And to me, that's a deliberate threat, not only towards me, but that's a threat to the Vanderwalls, Grace. Especially if my public defender is not telling me who I can and can't contact. That's my public defender's fault. And then I also got threatened last night over 2 things. One thing is that if I contact anybody, they will throw me in the shoe. If I use the phone, which goes against my amendments, my amendments. And to go along with that, they are also saying that Grace is not involved in my case when she is, because she's in my legal discovery, and she's a big part of my case. And to go along with that, I also got told last night by the night shift to go ahead and pack my belongings because I'm getting out. I'm getting my case dropped. But then after I packed up, they came back to my cell, the night shift here at the jail, and they told me, oh, we were just playing around. So I started freaking out last night, going like, why are the COs the last couple days just on purpose doing everything in the world to try to piss me off? Saying I'm getting out. They came on the intercom a couple times last night telling me to pack my stuff, I'm leaving, which never once happened. They were just going all haywire for some reason, like throwing me on purpose into the spotlight in front of these other inmates.
Yes.
I don't know the reason behind it. I don't know why I'm getting the blame.
This call is from a federal prison.
Especially being targeted by me trying to just do my time and get out. And all I want is just to know what's going on with me and Grace. That's all I want. And nobody is even helping me. And psychiatric here at this jail is telling me that my mental health is doing better, but I'm in my cell every single night punching the living crap out of myself. On purpose, beating myself up to where I have cuts and bruises all over my skin and all over my body, because psychiatric is just telling me that, oh, you're doing great, when I'm not. And I've told them that. Like, I told them, like, I don't know who to believe anymore. My public defender is not doing his job. I don't know why I got deemed incompetent and they're not talking to me about my case. I've been sitting here 6 months, and then psychiatric tells me that, oh, you're doing great. And so I just start punching myself in my face till I have a black eye, because I feel like they're just playing me on purpose.
I spoke too soon, y'all. I spoke too soon when I said that Clark had better content than Little Sippy, because when you look at this call, this shit is just pure gold. Probably one of the best starts to a call I've seen from Little Sippy, like, ever. You know what I mean? This is some really good shit. Daniel just starts spilling the beans on like everything. He just gives every single bit of information he has. And you also have to put into perspective the timeline here, because Clark had put out his whole like Daniel Larson gets essayed. That was put out by Flexburger about a day ago. And this shit was put out 3 days ago. So, you know, there's a bit of a timeline difference there. If you look at it, Little Sippy made his video before Clark, and this has a lot of good info in it. So that gives him a little bit of points right there. There's a whole lot to cover in this snippet, so let's just start at the beginning. It starts off with Daniel throwing a curveball. You know, he starts off real dramatic. He says that this is the last time that he can ever call Little Sippy. Right away, he's like, this might be the last call we ever have. And the reason for this is because Daniel is doing excessive phone calls. That's my theory. Now, I believe this is the case because you hear him talk about SIS a lot, which is Special Investigative Services. These people are basically involved with criminal investigations when it comes to staff or inmates. So they have a lot of shit to do with like threats and excessive phone calls. And you know what Daniel does? He does a lot of excessive phone calls. You know, between Little Sippy and Clark, I'm sure that this dude does like at least 10 phone calls a day, right? So he's sitting here claiming that they're like going against his rights or that they're making clear threats against him when this is just part of their job. He shouldn't be making as many phone calls as he does, especially since he's in there for communication of threats, you know, using his phone to make threats against the government. And then we get the news that Grace VanderWaal has put a restraining order out on Daniel. You know what I mean? That's crazy to think about. I hope that it's true. It can be true. I mean, it sounds like it's true because I feel like Daniel wouldn't just make up the fact that Grace VanderWaal put a restraining order out against him. Usually when it comes to Daniel, he doesn't say negative things unless it like directly makes him the victim in some kind of scenario. And in this case, this really wouldn't make him like a victim per se. It would just get him made fun of. If it was Grace VanderWaal, he would make up positive things, you know what I mean? I mean, he has said negative things about Grace, but it's usually due to what the trolls have said to him. It's not due to his own delusions. And then finally, of course, we get to Daniel saying that the COs are trolling him, that they're in there like telling him that he's about to be let go, that today's his final day. They're having him pack up, and then, you know, the next morning when he's ready to go, they're like, we were just joshing Daniel. You're going to be in here forever. That's such a crazy thought to have. That's such a crazy delusion, man. I don't know how he comes up with this shit. I mean, I guess it could happen. Maybe the COs are trolling him. I don't know. It's a lot, man. Supposedly everybody's trolling him. The inmates are trolling him. The COs are trolling him. The SIS is trolling him. Everybody is trolling him. It's insane, man. How is he still mad that they're saying that he's incompetent? I mean, come on, dude. Look at the shit that you're saying. I just explained perfectly why you should be like deemed incompetent. You just have no brains at this point. Although I do think he has enough brains to understand what he was doing. Like, he has enough brains to understand the threats he was making. So, I don't know. It's just kind of like a loophole in the law, basically. At the end of the day, he'll probably get some lenience on his charges, but we'll have to wait and see. We can only hope that he gets charged at all, right? But like I said earlier, that's literally the only thing that's saving him at this point. If he wasn't found incompetent, he would have been charged by now, without a doubt.
So you've only been in contact with me and Griffin and your dad and Bob, right?
Well, he's kind of like a stepdad to me. He's not my biological dad. But yeah, that's about it since I've been arrested. And not even my public defender, really. But since like early October, like October 3rd, October 4th, I haven't been in contact with Bob at all. I've been trying to call him. He's been refusing to answer. I don't know if he's dead or alive. Nobody will tell me.
Yeah, he was sick,
In the meantime, right. In the meantime, I've been talking with you the most because Griffin is not even answering his phone much. And Griffin wants to give me a number of his friend, but the SIS here is telling me don't do that. Because that's going to add to, I guess, whatever's going on. And I guess as well, Tina is in communication with somebody here at the jail on a regular basis, because SIS told me this, is in contact with the jail staff trying to get a restraining order on me because I'm talking on the phone about her. But yet nobody is sending me the proof. Nobody is sending me anything to even match what they're saying. All it is just words.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm to a point I don't give a fuck anymore about what's going on. I'm just in complete violation of things myself, because it's clear everybody's just violating whatever they feel like. And I'm more of a guy that is like, I will do what I'm going to do until there's proof on paper.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense why she would want a restraining order, because you can't get a restraining order against somebody unless they threaten you or something. But you never threatened her. You just want to make amends with her and get back on her good side and get back with Grace.
Right. That's all I want, is to get back on her good side and try to figure out what's going on. And I haven't even talked to her since I've been here. And she's trying to say that I either have or something, and SIS is getting in the middle of it, but yet they're not sending me, or they're not showing me the proof of their phone call, because they're the ones that are saying, we made the call, meaning SIS made the call to Grace and Tina. I don't even know if Grace and Tina even want that call. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if they were threatening SIS with a restraining order, or if they were threatening me. But until I have either something on paper or I talk with Tina to try to sort this out, it's just empty threats.
Yeah. I don't know what SIS's problem is. I don't know why they're messing with you, but
and it's not just SIS. Like last night after lockdown, the COs, like I said, told me to pack my stuff, and I was leaving. My case was dropped. I was getting out. I packed up everything. And then after I packed up, I started banging on my cell door and woke up my cellie because he was asleep. It was like midnight. And then at midnight, here comes the CO back to my cell and is like, oh, we were just playing around with you. And I'm like, fuck you. You guys woke me up. Told me to pack my stuff. Now I'm thinking I'm getting out, like you guys were saying, and now you guys are joking about everything. So I just sat in my cell and just started punching the living crap out of myself. And my cellie told me it's not worth it.
yeah,
They're just trying to piss me off.
it's
And
definitely
I was like, I understand that, but it's not okay what they're doing.
it's definitely not okay what they're doing. But hurting yourself isn't gonna change
It's not going to help myself either. And I mean, even on top of that, psychiatric is saying that, like, oh, you're doing great. They're not helping. They're not doing anything. So I'm just to a point, I'm just kind of letting it escalate, which isn't good.
That's not good. You want to keep yourself safe. If you start hurting yourself, it's just going to make things a lot worse. So.
Right. And I'm also not, psychiatric's not going to put me on suicide watch or anything because I'm not suicidal. so they can't do that. And I've already talked to psychiatric, and they're not going to do it because they already know I'm not suicidal.
Okay.
But anyways, I gotta go. All right, this is absolutely crazy.
All right. Hopefully, I'll talk to you soon if they don't cut off the phones.
All right. Sounds good. All right, bye.
All right, bye.
I'm sorry, y'all, but the concept of Daniel, like, getting up in the morning and expecting to get out of jail and the CEO's laughing in his face is just so hilarious. That's so comical. That's like some shit straight out of a movie. Like, two CEOs fucking with this PDF file, you know, getting him to think that he's about to get released. And then, you know, right when his bags are packed, they're like, nah, fam, you're staying here, bud. He's got to drop this Grace shit at some point because he's just, you know, like digging it into the ground. And it seems like she's caught on. It seems like at this point, she's really put a restraining order out on him and it's over. I really don't think Daniel was ever going to meet up with the real Grace at all. But, you know, I'm glad she did get a restraining order because if the scenario ever did arise, then she could, like, I guess, do some criminal shit against him. I don't know. He could still go and see her. She can just call the police and get him arrested and, you know, get him fucked with if he ever goes near her. But it's still, like, physically possible. It's been rumored for a while that Grace knows about Daniel. I'm pretty sure she's, like, referenced him in deleted posts before and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's been rumored that this has been a situation for a while. But now we get to see this firsthand account from Daniel, so hopefully it will drill into his brain that this shit was all fake, but, you know, it never will. No matter what happens, this dude will continue to believe his delusions. I mean, he's crazy as fuck. I don't know if the psychiatrists are actually telling him he's doing great. I doubt that they're telling him he's doing great, considering that he's incompetent. They may be telling him that just to keep him from freaking out, but either way, he's not doing great. And it's pretty evident that he's not doing great, considering he's saying that he's like smashing his head into the wall, you know, hitting himself, giving himself a black eye. Classic Daniel Larson tantrum type shit. And like I said in the beginning, this call was like full of a bunch of fluff. It had like 5 minutes of Daniel Larson repeating himself, you know, whereas Clark's videos are a little bit more tighter. They're a little bit more neater. You know, maybe little Sippy could invest in an editor. But either way, who cares about these two degenerates? Their lives basically boil down to calling a PDF file and being his best friend. They're like basically in a challenge right now together. That was the point of this video. They're sort of in a war, in a tug-of-war match with Daniel where they're both trying to get the most out of each call with him, right? They're both trying to juice him for as much clout as possible. This PDF file that, you know, wants to diddle kids. Yeah, they're just trying to use him for as much clout. And I guess, like, in a way, you can see that as admirable if they weren't doing that by being his best friend. You know what I mean? If they weren't doing that by straight up buddy trolling him. They're just, like, directly talking to him. And they're directly friends with him. You know what I mean? So it's different than just, like, making videos on the guy and making money off a PDF file. You know what I mean? They're, like, making money off a PDF file by being his best friend. So it kind of like eliminates the whole point of trying to one-up him. You know what I mean? Like trying to get over on him if you're literally pretending to be his best friend. With that being said, that's the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. It took me a long time to edit. It took me a long time to put together. I've been wanting to make this video for a long time. So if you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. All that helps out in the algorithm. If you guys watched all the way to the end, you're the best. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.